Hi folks, HR Funk here with part 2 of my series on the DSA 58 rifle, or what I'm calling the 5821. If you missed part 1 of this video, or this video series I should say, go back and take a look at it, because in that video I'm giving you a complete overview of this rifle, which is a US manufactured clone of the famous FAL. In just a couple of minutes I'm going to start shooting this rifle, and as I mentioned in that first video of the series, I am not really familiar with this platform. When I start shooting, the shots you see me fire are literally going to be the first ones that I've ever fired out of not only this rifle, but any FAL platform rifle. So this is going to be fun, and I've been wanting to get out and get these shots fired for a while, but the weather hasn't been cooperating. I've had some other things going on, and what I'm going to be doing today is really just a first shots with this rifle. I want to make sure that I have reasonable accuracy at distances out to 100 yards, and then in a future video I'm going to go out to the bigger range and go out to distances upwards of 300 yards. Now, one of the things that I've run into already that's going to maybe cause a little bit of a kink in this plan is the fact that I don't have a tool to adjust the front sight. So I hope my elevation is close enough that I can just compensate for any deviation in point of impact simply by adjusting my hold. But if not, I'm going to have to get a tool from DSA probably to be able to adjust that. Now, ostensibly, you can adjust the front sight with a bullet tip, but I haven't been able to get it to budge, so I'm not going to be able to do anything elevation-wise on the front sight. And I'm also going to be setting up the gas system so it's properly regulated for the ammunition that I'm using. In the instruction manual for this rifle, it indicates that you're supposed to completely close the gas system, which means you turn the dial counterclockwise all the way to the point where it bottoms out against the front of the gas system. Then you turn one complete revolution clockwise and stop where there's a numeral 7 lined up with the center line of the barrel. Unfortunately, my gas dial is one of the ones that doesn't have numerals. So you can see how my day's been going already. So what I've done is I completely closed the gas system. I turned it one revolution clockwise. Then I went 7 positions more beyond that to begin to tune the gas system. And what I'm going to be doing, and this is outlined in the instruction manual for the DSA 58, is installing an empty magazine. Then I'll hand load one round into the chamber and fire that round. And what I need to do is get to the point where the bolt is reliably being locked open by the magazine. At this first setting, that's probably not going to happen, and as I fire more and more rounds through, I'll make 1 or 2 click adjustments in the gas dial till I get to the point where I'm getting that reliable lockback of the bolt on the magazine. So with all that explanation out of the way, let's get right to this first shots video. By the way, I'm not going to be doing the split screen, so you're not going to see the bullets impacting when I'm shooting. What I'm going to do is shoot some of these shots, then I'll take the camera down range and you can see where they hit. So here we go, first shots with the DSA 58. I'm going to be firing this very first shot at a distance of 25 yards. I'll see where that impacts, and depending on whether or not I need to make any adjustments, I'll do that. Then I'll move on to 50 yards and then 100 yards. Ammunition for this is going to be plain old M80 ball ammunition. By the way, a big thanks to Lovezogs 1954 for donating this ammunition. He is a great friend and a great friend of the channel. A lot of the firearms you see me review over the years have been his, and he also was kind enough to loan me some ammunition for this review. So that's fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and hand load this first round. And I guess I already have the chamber open. So let's get that one in there. And we'll close it. Safety is in the fire position. Now, one of the cool things about this video, I fooled you, you thought I was going to shoot, right? is that since these are my first shots ever out of this rifle, I can give you my first impressions as I go. And the first thing I notice as I look through the sights is how familiar this seems. It really is similar to the rear aperture front post that I've seen in the M1 rifle, the M14 rifle, even the AR-15/M16s of modern times have basically the same sight arrangement. Let's see what happens when I actually squeeze the trigger. All right. A little bit more recoil than I was expecting, and the bolt did not lock back. Pretty much I didn't think it was going to. See if I can see where that shot hit. I believe we're not too far off at 25 yards, a little bit low and a little bit to the left, I believe. Let me check the spotting scope. So not really too bad at all. That is a little bit low at 25 yards, but at this distance I'm not surprised because the sights are well above the bore line of the rifle, so I would expect it to hit a little bit low here. And I'm a little bit to the left, so I'm going to make a slight windage adjustment to the rear sight. Then I'll move out to 50 yards and see what happens there. So while the camera was off, I made two adjustments. One, I moved the rear sight about 3 clicks to the right, so we'll see how much difference that makes. Also, on the gas system, I turned the dial clockwise about 4 clicks. So we are ready for shot number 2. Let's see what happens. And since the first shot was close enough at 25 yards, I'm going to go ahead and move out to 50 yards with this shot, and we'll see where it impacts. Shot number 2 is away, and that time it locked the bolt back. So I'll try a few more rounds. Maybe that's right where it needs to be, and I won't have to mess with the gas system anymore. We'll find out as I move through some more shots. And not bad at all at 50 yards. I'm still a little bit to the left, but the elevation is right about where the tip of the front sight was, so I'm pretty happy about that. I'll make another slight windage adjustment to this rear sight, and I think I'll go on out to 100 yards. So 5 more shots of right windage, courtesy of my trusty Swiss Army knife. And I went ahead and closed the gas system, or the dial, just a little bit. I went 2 clicks back clockwise, just to see where I am with the gas system. I want to see if this is still going to lock the bolt open here, or if it was better off back where I was, 2 clicks more the other direction. So let's find out. By the way, this shot is going to 100 yards. There we go, center mass hold at 100 yards, and the bolt did not lock back, so I'll have to dial it back to where it was before. And I think I'm just not making enough of an adjustment on this rear sight. It's a good thing that I started out at 25 yards. Had I started at 100 yards, it might have been off the target to the left. The elevation at 100 yards is just about perfect, but I'm still having that shot off to the left. So I'll make another windage adjustment. Then I'll try a few more shots. I'm actually going to load some shots into the magazine, or some rounds rather, into the magazine, and run this thing in semi-auto mode, and we'll see how it does. I now have the rifle loaded with 3 rounds. There are 2 in the magazine and 1 in the chamber. The safety is on currently. I also made another sight correction. I went 5 more clicks to the right on this rear sight. So I'm going to try a 3-shot group at a distance of 100 yards. I also turned my gas dial 1 more click clockwise to close it off just a little bit more. And as long as I get reliable functioning, I'm going to go ahead and fire a 3-shot group, and we'll see what happens here. Looks like the action cycled. Not sure if it cycled that time. I don't see another cartridge out here. Apparently it did, and the bolt locked open. Let's see what that group looks like. Group looks pretty good, but I still have not made any difference in my windage. Let's go down and take a look at this one. So I've got to say, I'm not feeling too bad about this at all. I think this was my first shot, and I've got 2 of those 3 shots that I fired a moment ago right there with it, so that's looking good. One of them I pulled a little bit low and to the left. It's down here. But as you can see, I still have everything tending to the right side of the target, my left as I'm looking at it. So I need to try to correct this windage, and once I accomplish that, I think I'm going to be done here for today. So here we go again. I put 5 more clicks of right windage on the rear side of the rifle. I loaded 3 more rounds into the magazine. I'm going to stick with that target at 100 yards. Let's see what happens. Functioning continues to be perfect, so I think I've found the gas setting. Well, I made some progress. This group is a little farther to the right. I'm going to move it a little bit more, and I'll try another 3-shot group. In an effort to move things along a little bit, I put 10 clicks of right windage on this time around, and I'm going to actually check each shot as I fire and make corrections as I go. So hopefully within the next 3 shots that I have loaded in the rifle, I can have a 0. So here we go. Once again, sticking with this distance of 100 yards. All right. That is still to the left. So I'm going to put the safety on. By the way, this is very convenient that my Swiss Army knife fits the screw for the rear sight adjustment as well as it does, because I almost always have my Swiss Army knife with me. Okay, let's try the next shot. Progress is very slow, folks. I'm going to make a big adjustment again this time. I'm going to go another 10 clicks to the right. Put the safety back on. I actually went 11, but I don't think that's going to hurt. That might have just done it. That shot is right above the X-ring, dead center in the target. I'm going to follow it up now with a 3-shot group and see if they stay there. So hopefully this is going to be my final 3-shot group at 100 yards. See what that group looks like. Yeah, I think I'm going to call that zeroed. Let's go down and take a look at the target. So this was the final shot of those 3 that I was firing as I was continuing to make sight corrections. And then these are the last 3 that I just fired pretty much dead center in the target. 2 of them were in the X-ring. I let one of them go a little bit high. Not bad accuracy at all for just plain old military ball ammunition firing out of that rifle. In fact, I'm pretty impressed by that. It is certainly minute of enemy soldier accurate, and I'm not going to mess with the sights anymore at all until I get out to the bigger range and I can start to work at longer distances. And I decided to come back to the shop to give you my first impressions, or my report of my first impressions, with the DSA 58, or as I've been calling it, the 5821. And I've got to say, I'm more impressed with this rifle than I even expected to be. In general terms, it worked just the way it was supposed to. I didn't have any problem whatsoever setting the gas system, and once I had it set, which really didn't take a whole lot of fiddling or anything else, the rifle ran perfectly reliably, and I intended to lube the bolt and clean the barrel before I went out to the range, and I just flat out forgot. So the rifle literally is running exactly the way it came out of the case, and there were no problems whatsoever, like I said, once I had the gas system set. The recoil impulse was a little bit more than I expected, but certainly it was not punishing or anything. I was able to shoot, and when you're shooting from the bench, you get the greatest amount of recoil impulse, so that might have been part of it too. When I actually get out and I can start doing a little bit more dynamic shooting, shooting and moving, shooting from a standing position, I'll be able to evaluate that a little bit more than I was so far. The sights on the rifle were perfectly adequate. They are similar to other rifles that were designed around the same time period as the FAL, so no issues there. The rear aperture and front post is very similar to me from shooting the M14, from shooting the M1, and even shooting the M16. So that was not difficult to use. The front sight ultimately didn't require any tuning whatsoever, so not having the tool for it or not being able to change it at all didn't cause any problems whatsoever. When I get out to the greater distances on the big range, it'll be interesting to see if I do need to adjust that front sight some, or if I can simply compensate for the trajectory at greater distances by elevating the rear sight. So that'll be something yet to be seen. And there might be a little bit more fine tuning that needs to be done with the rear sight when I'm shooting it at farther and farther ranges. The rear sight took a little bit more clicking to move and get zeroed than I expected it to. And according to the owner's manual, the rear sight has an adjustment of 1 centimeter at 100 meters for each click of the sight, which is kind of fine. I would expect it to be a little bit more coarse than that and move something closer to 1 minute of angle per click, which obviously would be, what, 2.5 centimeters or something like that at 100 meters. But it got there, and the fact that I was able to do it with just my Swiss Army knife was convenient. It would have been more convenient if I had a knob like I have on the M14 or on the M1 to be able to just turn that by hand and not have to use any kind of tool at all. But being able to accomplish it with just my Swiss Army knife was not difficult, and as I said, it was convenient that that was the only tool that was required. The trigger on the DSA 58 was about what I expected for a battle rifle from this time period, which is to say it was heavy. This is certainly not a match grade trigger, but it's also perfectly serviceable. As long as you are executing a good trigger squeeze and taking your time to make sure you're keeping your sights aligned, the bullets go where you want them to go. One thing I noticed that for me, at least when I was at the bench, the reach to the safety with my thumb is kind of long. I have to basically shift my hand somewhat to be able to reach that. So that's one thing ergonomically I noticed that, for me anyway, doesn't work quite as well as I would like, but that's also just a training issue. It's nothing that's that bad to use either. The thing I think that was most impressive while I was out at the range was the degree of accuracy I saw while shooting this rifle at 100 yards. Even when I was still adjusting the windage on the rear sight, the groups themselves were staying very tight. So accuracy was better than I expected. Going out there, I wasn't sure what I was going to get. I would not have been surprised to see 4 minutes of angle, 5 minutes of angle, something like that. And I would say the groups were generally running in the 2 to 3 minute of angle range, so not bad at all. I was very impressed with that, and that was with plain old military ball ammunition. If I run some match grade ammo through here, we might see it tighten up even more, so that was cool. So as I said, I was quite impressed with the FAL design, with the DSA 58 in particular, and if things continue going like that, I really can't wait to get to the future segments in this series. In any case, that's going to do it for this episode. If you have any questions or comments, make sure, as always, you forward those to me. Remember, stop by hrfunk.com and check out all the information there. All the latest news and info on the channel are there. And also check out the product information page for products that I've reviewed, and also the discount codes for those products that I have are listed there as well. See you next time, folks, and until then, good shooting. Bye-bye.